Welcome to the Perspective Podcast, where we embrace open dialogue from different perspectives about entrepreneurship, relationships, and education.
And this open dialogue is needed, especially today, as we live in a Twitter finger society where everyone seems to care more about getting their point across than they are about hearing the other person's perspective.
If you're ready to grow your business, your relationships, and your personal development, stick with us here at the Perspective Podcast, because sometimes in life, to get to the next level, you just need a different perspective.
If I look like what I've been through, I'd be roadkill. Tell me off of the pavement, I'm reeking from the...
All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Perspective Podcast. I'm C. Muzan. Got T here with me. Say what's up, T.
What's going on, family?
Guys, we're back. Another week.
Back
again. Sharing more of our perspective. Hopefully you guys are taking in these perspectives, having conversations with other people, maybe about your perspective, but just even using the word perspective, I think is encouraging, because it opens up and gives you that idea that, listen, this is just a perspective. It's just one thought. It's just one person's take on something. It doesn't mean right, wrong. It just means, right, we got to understand other people. So again, that is the premise, right?
Well, it's funny, the people around me, whether at work or home, like they use perspective, the word, so much more now. They're just like, all right, well, my perspective is, and you can hear that just lets you know, like you're indoctrinating people.
Exactly. I think the same thing, because I hear the same thing around. And in my language, I'm always saying, well, that's your perspective, or that's my right. So it's good for all those that are listening to, again, and continue to use these words, because it will help you understand other people's viewpoint, shape the way that you view the world or situations. And that's what we want to do. Just come give you guys a little bit different taste of how other people think. So today, dive into a topic. It's actually been floating around a lot. I think this mental health topic has been really in the zeitgeist, really in like society. I don't know, what, 4 years, maybe 5 years?
Well, yeah, like probably longer than that, but you're starting to get more of it, especially as more of our celebrities or people of high profile, I think would be a better term, right? Yeah. Have started like addressing it. Some people used to say it was using it, but I think now we're actually addressing it.
Yeah, I think so.
It's not being used in a manipulative way, if you will. So,
and I think it's just us talking about it publicly, I think is what has gained traction over the past 4 or 5 years, right? Today we wanted to, and T had brought up this conversation about men and therapy, right? And going to therapy. Maybe, specifically Black men going to therapy, but just men in general going to therapy. And again, the mental health topic has become more open, more men actually in the conversation, I think, over the past 4 or 5 years. So now it's really getting, I don't want to say to the forefront, but it is becoming one of those things that
it's becoming normal, right? It's becoming normal and I guess acceptable, which is annoying, but that's another conversation. Meaning, like, we have to get to the point where it was like acceptable for someone to say, I need help, or I don't even like because that seems like almost like a victim. Like sometimes when I say it, even I still have my own filters up, right? But it's like saying, like, I need new tools. And I think that was the reframe. So I guess I'll start with this because I brought up the topic. It's funny. I have been a mentor, a coach, probably I've been called a therapist by so many friends and family, literally since I was 15 years old. Like literally since I was 15 years old. I would be the person or one of the people that people come to and be like, I have this problem, or I have this going on, or I need somebody to listen to me, or I need advice, or sometimes just like, what are your thoughts on it, right? And all these different things, or just be quiet and listen, right? And I've been that for so many people. However, I had a really big hang up with the thought of going to a therapist. Now, I didn't have hangups with mentors going to them. I didn't have hangups going to close friends and family. didn't have any hangups. But the thought of going to an individual that I didn't have a pre-built relationship with in some capacity was absurd to me. It was absurd to me, because I felt like to go that deep into my thoughts, into my emotions, into the depths of my fears with someone that I didn't know if I can trust really was a bother. Because I didn't know, because I was really big on like, you got to be careful what you put in your spirit. Like I was really big on that. And I still am big on that. Like we talk about that all the time, Chris. I hear you say like, what comes in, watch what comes in, filters up, right? You got to be mindful because what gets in, it festers and it starts shaping actions and behaviors and ultimately results. And so for me, not going to a therapist per se, somebody I didn't know and have a relationship with, was like, I don't know what they're about to give me back. I know what a mentor is because I put them in that place. Like I allowed them to be a mentor because I'm receiving family, friends. They are who they are because of that. And so I had a really, really bad hang up. It got to the point though, where family, friends, and mentors, it didn't seem as effective. And I got to a desperate place where like life had really started to collapse around me, like really, really, really bad. And I was like, you know what? Fine. I'm going to a stranger. I don't know what else to do. I have no one else to do. And I was like, and I'm not going to any Christian stranger. I'm not going to do hardly any of those things. I'm going to somebody completely different. It might be, I don't know, somebody like in golf outfit there, look like they worship Satan. I don't know, right? Like I don't know. I'm just using that as an example, right? Sorry for golf people if you feel like worship Satan. I don't know. I thought that's what it was. Gotta be careful these days. I don't want to get canceled, Chris. So cancel culture is real, man. I'm saying I don't get canceled, bro. I need cancel culture to redirect their stuff to the IRS or student loans or something, like a post on Facebook. Anyways, I saw that post. They need to aim higher. Anyways, but you know, I didn't, at that point I was so broken. I felt so broken. And so I ended up going to my first like therapy session. And lo and behold, it was the pastor's wife. It just happened. That was her profession. And we just started talking. So I'm sharing my childhood. And so she's relating. She's like, oh, I understand that childhood. And then she gives me, I was like, I asked for not a Christian person here. Right. Like, you know, but what happened was it ended up being a beautiful thing. Because we were able to relate on some capacity and then build upon it. And so, and then COVID happened and I was like, I don't go to office anymore, right? And everything else. And then I ended up getting another therapist. I let months go by and I started going back through this cycle again. And I was like, man, it wasn't as bad because I had a lot of stuff that I learned from before, but I was like, let me do it now. But I didn't like the fact that I had to go into the office because sometimes I just want to be able to text it, or I wanted to be able to have like quicker, you know, got to work for my schedule. And I didn't want to have to keep driving over here and there. So then I did one of the virtual ones. And again, I put no Christian, no this, no that. And of course I get like, like church mom or church auntie, you know, which is funny, but, and some of the things that we've been going through and talking about, I'm just like, man, I am so happy that I was able to get over my own pride, ignorance. I can't even tell you what it was, hangups. Because when you are trying to find something, it is, and you really, your heart's into it, you will get exactly what you're looking for, even from somebody that's a complete stranger. It actually gave me a better light about humanity. That's awesome. Like shedding your humanity in a different light because I put my guards down, and I've gotten deeper with my second therapist than even I was able to get with my first therapist because of that. And we hit some things that hit the gut of my soul on the last session, and it was just like, oh my God, I need a moment. When do you think, T? When do you think? Where did that stigma first come from for you?
Like where it's like, you know, that would be weird. Like where did that
come? Okay, from childhood. My dad used to say stuff like, oh, she crazy or he crazy. He got to go see a psychiatrist. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really know the difference. Like, so they were one and the same for me. So, you know, I guess a psychiatrist can be a therapist as well. But they are, but you know what I mean? Like, it was mental health. Like you had to be off to go talk to somebody. And that was what it was. And I was just like, well, I ain't off. Like, you know, or at least I felt like it wasn't off. Now, lo and behold, I've come into the realization and acceptance of my crazy, if you will. Yeah. But that's what it was. So for years, it was just like, well, I don't need that because that's not where I am. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, there was also the stigma of like, if you go see one, they're just going to put you on meds. Mm. Western medicine, as we talked about before, right? They're just gonna put you on medicine or different things of that nature, right? And so I was like, I don't want any medicine, and I'm not crazy. Right. So what do I need? I don't need that. So that's where my two major hangups came from.
It makes sense, man. It makes sense. And again, good that we can have the conversation because a lot of people struggle with this. A lot of people struggle with that seed that was planted in our environment as a child or as we were growing up to believe that if you had to go, you said it, had to go seek help, right? Yeah. If you had to go seek help, that made you weak, that made you less of a person, that made you crazy, right? Like, because it wasn't normalized. Remember, when we grow up in these environments, we only take in what's normal to us, right? Like, oh, okay, well, no one else does this, or that's not how they talk, or this is how they cope, or whatever, right? Like we start figuring things out, and therapy was not one of those things that we were raised with, right? It's not one of those things that we talked about. For me, I've always, though, been open to talking to someone. I think that's always been, and, you know, as I hear you, T, saying like you know, you've always sought the mentor, the close person, the family friend, like the person that you believed you could trust.
Yeah.
For some reason, I've always believed I could trust strangers over those people, right? Like I actually went the other way. It was actually when I really started thinking about therapy or talking to someone, it's kind of like in Catholicism, like talking to the priest, right? Like in confessing to the priest. It's a little bit like, that's a person, they hear this type of stuff all the time. I'm gonna go just like let it off on them, right? Because I don't know them, because they are a stranger to a bit, right? That actually brings me comfort to speak about the things that are deep inside, that if I did give them to someone that knew me personally, that it might not, right? It might not go the way that I wanted. They might judge.
They have their own biases about it. And they know.
And they know, right? And they know me, and they like, so I've actually always been more comfortable going to the stranger or talking to someone that maybe I, wouldn't talk to normally. But I really got into, you know, therapy, my gosh, from at the time of recording this, maybe 7-8 years ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago was like my first kind of foray in like, hey, I really feel like I need to talk to someone. And for me, what it was coming to was just on this entrepreneurial journey. Sometimes you shake off friends and family and people that are around because you're just here. But when the brain starts going crazy and you have all these thoughts, and yes, right, we can lean on prayer, but then there's a time where you're just like, I need to get this out. Like I need to talk about this stuff because like it's moving too fast up here and it's messing me up. And that's when I was just like, I think I need to go to therapy. I think I need to find a therapist. And it was relatively natural for me to reach out and to go to therapy. Now, I didn't know what I was going to get in therapy. And when I did start first going to therapy, I struggled with being open. It was a real thing. Like, even though I said I'm comfortable with strangers, I still wasn't comfortable being open in general. Right? Like, and you know, therapy only works if you're honest. Right?
Yeah. And I was like, once I was there, I was like,
Here's it all.
Oh, and I didn't even mention, well, go ahead. I'll mention my first therapy experience. I said the first one, but I actually forgot about one. I blanked it out of my mind, but continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. So like when I'm going, like my struggle was, all right, well, how do I be open with this person to like, I'm not open with anybody really in this way as I'm going down. So it was actually a little bit of a struggle for me to talk to that person and really like open up where I wanted to go. And it took me a few sessions to be like, oh, okay, I got it. Like, I have to be honest here. Like, I have to tell her that thing that I don't want to say, right? Because that's the only way she's gonna give me some things to be able to work through. And what I realized in the process was I just needed to talk about it. Yeah. Actually, it actually wasn't about her. And my therapist was a woman, right? But it wasn't about her. It was never about like what she could tell me. And I know we'll probably touch on this as we keep going down. A lot of people think that therapy is like, well, what are they going to tell me? I hear this when I tell people to go to like marriage counseling or therapy like that. Well, what are they going to tell me about my life? They don't know. And I'm like, it's not about them telling you about your life. It's about you just being able to communicate these things and then go deeper in. So they bring more conversation, more feelings out of you so you can process better. And I got my own ahas without her being like, well, that's an aha. I got my own just by communicating. And that was how kind of my first like kind of therapy session started to go. And then just like you, right? You stop, then you kind of pick it back up again with a new one. And that's just the way it goes. I think finding a therapist is like finding a good doctor. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes
and it has to work within the person, the scheduling, because there's been plenty of doctor's offices that I love, but they were always overbooked. Like I could never even see them. So that doesn't qualify. But no, it's so funny. Like, so my very first experience, actually, I totally forgot about it, was one of the worst experiences like ever. Like literally I go in and I'm like, all right, I'm here. So like in 45 minutes, I gave like a condensed, like over the top highlight reel, play my greatest hits from start to finish. I started from childhood all the way to present day. And I know it was like a lot. It was like a boulder. And I was like, well, if I'm here, you're supposed to be open, you're supposed to be honest. I'm supposed to just let it go. All right, I'm all in on this. And literally, because, the nature of my business, I have to read people and understand. And this lady was like, you could tell, she was just like,
too much.
Too much. Nope. I mean, and here goes the thing. She wasn't a Black lady, right? So it just seemed like, and I say the Black thing because it seemed like there was no, like, we couldn't find any, like, I could see it on her face, like nothing. Like you could tell she even like outwardly started getting like annoyed, taking more and more notes as we were going through it. Like there was no connection whatsoever. Right now, my second therapist was not a Black lady either, but you could tell she was like finding links and connections. You could tell she was bringing herself into it to be able to get with the patient, right? I think this is an important thing, right? You don't want to be like this stonewall person. And then we got to like the end, and the lady didn't even it was just like nothing. And then it was like, okay, she said something about the time and pretty much like, oh, we got to go. Like somebody else is here. It was just like totally cut off. And she was like, oh yeah, just make sure you schedule for next time. And I was like, no. And I remember getting like, cause we were out and my wife's like, oh, I'm gonna go do this. And then she came back and picked me up because she wanted to be there because she knew this is a really big thing. For me to say I'm going to therapy, like it was a huge deal. So she was like, I want to be there. I'm like almost like a kid going to class. She was like, I'm gonna drop you off and then I'll come pick you up. Like it was like a big deal. I got back in the car. She's like, how'd it go? I was like, that was the worst experience ever. And she was like, oh my God, what happened? So I started telling the whole story. And she's just like, oh my God, that was so bad. I would never, why would anybody do that? Like how her body language was, things she had, like certain things she had said. And my wife was like, oh God, he's never, now like he went through this experience and now he's never going back again. But I chalked it up. I was a big boy. I said, you know what? It's like going to a restaurant everybody talks about, it's really good. You go one time, it's like, I got to give it at least 2 more times. Like I got to give it at least 2 more times to really say, maybe it was what I ate, maybe it was a bad night, somebody was off, whatever it might be. Yeah. And that's what got me to. My second one, like I said, was good. That encouraged me. Just scheduling wise, it didn't work. I'd rather have the the phone call or video conference. I don't need to be there. Like I don't need to physically be in your presence. Just need somebody to talk to.
And I think that's a big point, right? Like, again, it's really just about, we don't understand our brain is a muscle. Our brain is a muscle, just like everything else, right? And so it has to get worked out. You have to understand that your brain is going to get clogged with a lot of things, and your ability to then start to communicate those things gives your brain clarity, right? It helps work out some of those things in your brain. And again, this is all about how we were raised or the environment that we came from, that especially if we're going to talk about men, Black men, right? If you grow up in a certain environment or a certain community, it's about being tough. It's about being
having it all together, living above being what it was to be a Black man, and holding it, like you're holding this flag, because the perception of America is Black men are angry and they go to jail and they're thugs and they're this. And when you're not in any of those things, you're literally like feel like you're holding the weight of it. They don't add a family to it. A Black man taking care of his family, and don't add like trauma that maybe your spouse has or other people around you have, that you're taking on their stuff and you're trying to be a responsible, functioning adult. And as a man, I don't know what it feels like to be a woman, but I can tell you what it feels like to be a Black man in America. And we need somebody to talk to.
And no one's ever given us the tools of what that outlet looks like, right? We know how to take it on. We know how to like put it on our shoulders. We know how to be strong, right? And again, all this stuff is programming from even a child when they're like, suck it up, right? You're tough, stop being a wuss, right? Like all those types of things are subliminal programmings of like, oh, if I'm feeling a little hurt or weak or down, I'm not supposed to say anything, right? I'm not supposed to show this. Oh, okay. And we're training boys how to do that now, right? I don't want to go the complete other way and think that like we have to raise men properly, right? We have to raise boys.
There's going to be struggle in life. And one outlet to help you, just like you need some, like, let's just use muscle sometimes to lift some stuff. Sometimes you need mental toughness to stick in there. Sometimes you need a release valve to let the pressure off. And that's what I look at therapy as. It's a release valve. It's just somebody hearing you and allowing you to talk through it. And a lot of times you talk through your own stuff.
Right.
And they're just a good listening ear to be, and then sometimes they'll drop a nugget in there.
They'll give you a tool.
And all it does is open your mind.
They'll give you a tool. They'll give you a nugget. They'll be like, oh, maybe you should think about it this way. Or have you ever thought about it like this? And then you're like, oh, well, actually, now that I'm talking, right? And it's that release valve. That's a great way to put it. It's a release valve. And what have we been taught? Like how to release? We go the opposite way.
Sex, money, go make more money, more women.
That's right.
Go gamble, go win something else, go start another business, go win another goal.
Drinking, smoking, right? The whole, like we've gone,
go win more, go win some more. Yes.
We've gone completely that direct. That's how we've been programmed. And now what we're learning is, no, we actually do need this communication piece. Like we do need to, you can find it other outlets perfectly, right? It is what it is. Everyone has their thing, but don't solely rely on those as the outlets to have that release valve appear. You gotta go talk to someone. You have, if you are struggling in areas, you've got to say, you know what, let me at least try to talk this through.
Yes.
And again, for men, Black men specifically, like that can be a hard thing. We talked on an episode a while back about one of the things that we would pass down, right, is the ability to communicate properly. One of the skill sets that we believe people need is to be able to communicate, having that communication, like, learning how to speak properly. Well, that's also goes to you learning how to talk about what you're feeling, what you're thinking, the thought. Right? It's not natural for a lot of us, again, because of how we're programmed, but it's something you have to work out. And by going to see a therapist, by going to sit down with someone and just teach yourself how to talk about what you're feeling.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the smartest things. It's one of the smartest things you can do if you're in a place that you understand, like there's a lot going on and I just need to get it out,
Yeah. And look, I had to reframe it for myself. So let's talk about getting how to work through it. I went from it being I needed help to I was gathering more tools. I reframed I changed the language from my own brain. Like I needed it. Sure. I went from I need a therapist, or not I need, but like I'm going to therapy, to I'm going to see my coach, right? Because me growing up, athlete, tough, I went to my coach for tools. I went to my coach for strategy. I went to my coach for these things. So I felt a safe place with a coach. So sometimes just the language we use with ourselves. I heard Steve Harvey say something. I wanted to bring it up on this because it's really been kind of like stuck on my heart. He said, you got to, I'm about to use what he said, don't do, but he talked about, he says, you got to take away, I got to do something. I got to go work out. I got to go study. I got to go do this. And change it to, you can change it to, I get to. I get to go work out. I get to. He said, when you have to say, I got to, you take away your responsibility to it. You take away your freedom to it. He says, when you get to, man, that's empowerment. That means you were given an opportunity to do something. I was thinking about, like, I was giving my son, a bath, and like, it's not the funnest time for me. Like, they do all these fun bath things and stuff, like, and he's 4. And, it's like, oh, it's so beautiful, give your kids bath. It is like traumatizing because they're like, no, I don't want to. They're fighting you the whole time. Then you're just like, all right, just get over here. He's just like washing them up. Oh, it's open my eyes. Shut up. Tough it out. Right. Right. Yeah. And I just was like, I was getting anxious about, like, I was like, oh my gosh, why does this have to be so hard? I got to give him a bath. And then I was like, hold up. I get to give my son a bath. And as soon as I said that to myself, it flipped. I was like, what if I was in jail? I would be begging to be able to be home and be able to just take 20 minutes to give my son a bath. Oh my God. And now, so it's like, oh, you're annoying me, but I get to do this. And I always think, what if I wasn't around? I would be begging for the moment to do so. And so
perspective
change, just one word, like one little thing, right? And I remember I was like, I get to, on top of compiling with therapy and reframing and restructuring, these things work. Like, I feel like to get to from one place to the next, I'm a big believer in you got to break where you are to go out. Absolutely. Like, you got to literally shatter, like clay just comes off, and then you just step into, right, this new thing, like I think it's the Michelangelo where he's like chiseling off, right? I see that to go to the next place in life, like that's how you have to do. And I realized I wasn't able to get to that next place where I wanted to be because it was too cloudy. It was too much. I was already in too many bad rhythms and too many habits, and I wasn't seeing clear. And I knew once I figured that out and I want to change, I got to do something different.
Huge. It's huge. Clarity is actually something I talk about a bunch. Clarity is the key to success, right? It's the key to getting to wherever you want to be. You actually have to be able to see it, and you have to be able to define it, right? Because, working in the money business, I hear a lot of people say, I want to be rich or I want to be comfortable. But what does that mean? Like,
what does that mean? What does that look like?
What does that look like? And they don't have clarity yet up here to see exactly that, oh, this is where I want to live. I want to live in the mountains, and I want the house to look like this. And I would love it to have this type of smell and this air. And then this is the type of money that comes in, and this, right? Like, just
and clarity. Then you can say, well, how much does that cost? And they're like, oh, it's 5 million. Why did you say you need 100?
Exactly. Right?
Why did you need 50 million? Oh, I just knew if I had 50, I would do it. Yeah, but you can do it in 5.
Exactly.
With your $700 a month. Like, you know what I mean?
It's a lot of time. Yeah, it's a lot of time. It's a lot of times people will say, like, oh, it's funny because I did this with somebody. I was on an appointment and I talked to the guy, and I was like, what's the goal? I always ask, what's 10 years now, right? 10 years down the line, what does it look like for you? He's like, I just love to make 6 figures. And I was like, okay, like 10 years, 6 figures, like that's good. Like, but why? Like, not more than that? Like, what do you think that's going to bring you? Like, because a lot of times when you're not at 6 figures, right? People think
that's the first mark.
Right?
I remember everything was about 6 figures for me.
And then you get there and you're like, well, this is
enough. Crap, I was short.
Yeah, this is enough. I read a quote from somebody saying, like, the more money you make, the more you realize you need to make more money, right? Yes. Like, it's just the way it goes. So that was his thing. And then I took him and I was like, well, what about if you wanted something bigger? And he did the exact same thing. He was like, well, then I want 100 million. Okay, well, there's a lot in between 100,000 and 100 million, but that's the lack of clarity. Like, we don't even know what the life is that we're going after. So we don't know what type of money we need or what we need to do to make that money or where to invest because we have no clarity. And a lot of times, this is what therapy will help you do. It'll
Yes,
give
it
you
will.
clarity of the things that you want to make happen, because it's too clouded up here, and you'll never get anywhere if you can't see it first up here. If you can't see it, you're not going to get there. So that's one of the things that if anyone out there that's listening to this is struggling with clarity, with just being able to see something, yes, get close, get connected in your faith, because that's right. God is going to give you right,
there's
clarity.
A lot of clarity just naturally with that.
Meditative practices, prayer, right? Like you're going to get a lot of clarity if you actually spend time there. But in the earthly realm, in the human realm, like you need to talk about the things that are on your brain so that you can clean it out. Instead, who did I hear say this? Oh, it was a pastor, I think, said this, that our brains are meant for creativity, not meant for storage. Our brains are meant for creativity, not meant for storage.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So oftentimes we're just storing so much stuff up here. We're just storing it. We're trying to remember this and keep this and hold this in. And then we can't be creative. We can't think of the new thing. We can't think of the business. We can't think of how we're supposed to get better. The vision's not clear because our brains are so clouded with storage, with things from the past, with things we're holding on to, that we can't allow it to do its actual function, which is right. There's nothing created like the human brain. Like the human brain the human body in general is right, made in God's image. It's a special thing. They've never been able to recreate what happens here, right? And if this is clouded, it's not going to allow any of the other stuff to function, right? So we really got to make sure, we really have to make sure for people that are listening that, like, if you understand you need to get some clarity on your goals to get to where you want to be, to change any aspect of your life that you feel like is not comfortable, it might come with you just talking it out, right? Just talk to somebody, just get it out. Because then, man, you know this, T, like by going through there, it feels amazing when you have those sessions that hit on the thing that allow you to get some clarity. Like, oh, gosh, it's kind of like a weight lifts off your shoulders a bit, you know?
Yeah, it can most definitely be that. Like my last session, I opened up about something that I've probably said before, but like didn't really know, not clear. And it was so clear that it left me in a place of, I know this now, like this is like a big aha. And I literally said, and I don't know, I have no way of knowing how to actually get to that place I'm talking about now. So literally it took you out of one place, and it'll put you like, and that's what sometimes people get, this is like the hard part. And I will give this right before we wrap this up. Like, you will get to a place where you're going to have to say, oh man, I see the error in my way, or I see the error in the thinking, or I see whatever. And I don't know what to do. Like, I do not know what to do. I finally come out of the storm, and now I'm looking around, and I do not know which way is north.
And what happens, and let me just tell you guys, because that's 100% correct. What happens is then your brain goes to work asking, how do I get there?
Yes.
How now that I know this?
You're out the storm. You're out the storm. And you got to trust yourself. I'm glad you brought that up, Chris, because your brain will start asking questions. All right, well, how do I get here? Well, how do I get this place of happiness? How do I get here? Now I know where I was, but how do I? And your brain will start going, your subconscious will start working. I can't even talk about the speed at which it works.
Robert Kiyosaki in Rich Dad Poor Dad, it's something I always go back to. He always says a statement closes the mind, a question opens the mind, right? And oftentimes we tell ourselves statements. I'm a bad this, I can't do this. This is the issue. This happened, right? Like it's statements. So our mind closes. It doesn't actually have to go to work.
Because it's like, okay, cool, done. Locked it in. Exactly. You just told me. Yeah.
I'm right. I'm not smart. I'm a bad person. Like that's what we do. We tell ourselves these things. And so the brain just listens to us.
Yeah.
Right? It just listens.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
it doesn't need to think. You just stated it.
Exactly. So the other side, questions open the mind. So when you get some awareness of things and then you realize, oh, I got here because of this, but how do I, now I see this side, how do I do that? How does that work? And then you realize you're just not equipped. Maybe you don't have the tools. Maybe you don't have the resource. Maybe you didn't have the knowledge. But even though you figured that out, now you can figure out how to go about it. And your brain will start working for you to be able to get you to that place, because now you have some clarity on where you want to go. And now you can go to work finding out how to get there.
This can be with anything, like how to, I have to lose weight. Well, how do I lose weight? Right? Like I went through the same process. Like I came down to, how can I work out, which is okay. How can I have a workout schedule? I figured that out. How can I eat and enjoy a daily, like, you know, because I eat not to, like, some people eat because they're like, oh, I have to. I eat because I enjoy food. Like I really enjoy eating and tasting. It makes me feel happy. How can I be happy and the food that I eat doesn't add weight, doesn't put me in potential diabetes or heart attack or stress or whatever else. And so then your brain starts to figure it out. And then what happens is, it's funny, you start meeting people that's like, oh, you have that question? I have the answer, or I have this, I have that. Why? Because you start drawing that, like, Chris, you said it earlier, we made in God's image, right? Like, this is what we believe. There's the physical body, there's your soul, your intellect, your emotions, then there's your spirit. And you don't realize when all three are working in harmony, there's nothing you can't do. And that's the thing, like, that's the aha moment of if you will, the podcast here. All three can work in harmony. But if your physical body's fine and your spirit may be in one place, but your soul, your emotions and stuff are out of whack, it's not going to flow right. You may get some stuff, but you're not going to get all that you should be able to have. But when they're all operating in parallel and unison together, you start drawing things in. And this is where they say people get lucky. No. And then, like, with successful people tell you, well, I create my own luck. That's just a nice way of saying all of these things are working in harmony right now.
Yeah, that's it.
In this area of my life.
That's it. You figure it out. Like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Again, bring it, right? All these things compare, right? We can bring it into the spiritual realm. We could take it to the word. We could take it to science, right? It doesn't matter. It's all the same stuff. The Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that our greatest human need is self-actualization or self-awareness. It's to understand oneself in all of those areas. Yes. Your mind, your body, your spirit, right? Your soul, your intellect and will and emotions. It's all of those things, understanding yourself in those areas. And most people don't understand themselves in all of those areas. Why am I this way? Why does this happen? Why do I think like this? Why do I get happy when I eat? Why do I, right? Like you got to figure it out to understand where all these things come from. And then you can get all those things in alignment, just like you said. So you can get them all in alignment. Your spirit man, right? Your physical body, your will, intellect, emotions, all of it can come into alignment. And now you're heading down that path, right? Clarity is needed. And again, these are all the things that can happen if you go to therapy, if you
in therapy, like that's the crazy point. Like these things kind of, and we're not saying therapy is the end all be all, because remember, we did a lot of things. There's mentors, there's friends, there's family, there's your own studies, right? Go out there and read and take on other people's thoughts and like education. We're just saying it's a gasket release for one. It can help bring perspective. It can open up so many doors, right? It's another, like, again, it's another tool. It's a tool for success. I can't talk about I want to be successful without saying I want to have a coach. I want to be able to have something. Like, these are all things needed. A lot of people out here talking about, oh, I want to be a millionaire, or I want to be this, or I want to be that, and you don't have all the tools. And so we're giving you today, like, I know a year from now, 10 years from now, my life's going to be completely different because I have better tools and I'm taking action on those tools. And it's just going to be ultimately an end result of that. So I'm happy I got over myself and my childhood perceptions around it. And I advocate for it, for the right one. Because,
it's like finding a doctor, ladies and gentlemen, right? And please understand, or I'll even take it to, it's like finding a church home. If you need to,
very difficult.
Yeah, right. Sometimes, I mean, me and my wife were on this path for some time pre-COVID of just like finding a church home and going to one church and saying like, oh, right, I like the people or this or the message, okay, and then you go to another one, it's like, oh, well, I'll see, and then you go back to that one, maybe I'll give that a try, right? Like, it's really, you got to figure out what is resonating with you, and that's the same thing as with a therapist, right? I I don't forget who I was telling this to, but like, one of my challenges in finding good therapists is because I believe I need the therapists for therapists. In my work, in what I do, in the personal growth, mental, right? Like that side, like I feel like I'm a little bit elevated. So the things that I deal with, like I know how to mentally already, like I actually have a lot of the tools.
There's things, exactly.
You know what I mean? That I know that I can implement and do, but I need that person that just like because every therapist has a therapist. I don't know if people know that, right? Like people that are in therapy, like that actively do therapy for people, they go see people for therapy, right? Like for their own, because they take in so much. I've talked to plenty of therapists about this. They take in so much low energy, right? That's what happens because they're getting dumped on all day and they have to be there taking in this low energy type stuff that the more you consume low energy, it's not like it just goes in and comes out. That's their profession. They do it every day, lots of times. You have to go release that to somebody else. You have to go get to a place where it's like, hey, let's think about it like this, right? Like, how are you?
They have their own selves too.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're going through their own stuff while taking in everybody else's stuff.
Exactly. So that's the therapist I feel I need, right? Because I take in so much and I also give out a lot, right? That I'm like, it's always like I'm just thinking of the last therapist I had. I went with this guy for 4 sessions. And I was kind of teaching him a little bit, right? It was weird. It was this weird thing. Like, yeah, I know that one, man. Like, so this is how I'm processing it. Like, how are we thinking about it? And it was tough, right? It was tough for him to, right, get above where I was at. This is also why now I'm in kind of some coaching circles, right? Having a coach and having a therapist are 2 different things, actually, right? A coach has a little bit more leeway to instruct and do some things and help you down a path. Therapy is really a clinical kind of, they have
they're bound by certain rules and laws. This is why Tony Robbins never became a therapist. He stayed a coach.
That's right. Yes. Because they're actually different. So again, we're presenting this stuff to you guys that are listening to even say, well, try coaching. If you've never heard of like, well, maybe therapy, the stigma of therapy.
That's why I changed the language because I had to.
Right. But you could also go actually see a coach, right? Someone that can help you, and they can do similar things that therapist can do. It's just they have a little bit more leeway.
They may specialize a little bit more. Like I have a business coach. Like I have a business coach who I go to and I talk it out, emotions, blah, blah, blah. And it's strictly about like running and operating a multi-million-dollar business. So absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up because sometimes that may be either the step 2 or the step needed, right? I just changed the language for me that was needed, but somebody else may say, no, I may actually need a little bit of different flavor and touch. But I think this was a good conversation, man. I mean, you got 2 Black men coming from different perspectives with it. You felt more comfortable talking to strangers. I like the connection of being able to talk to somebody and have it. I'm dumping on somebody, but they're a part of it. Like we're growing and building this together. So 2 different perspectives, but we land in the same spot, which is we both advocate for having a coach and or therapist or both or what have you to be able to move forward in your life, to release the gasket, to take off pressure, get a perspective, clear the mind up so that you can be more productive throughout your day, right? Helps you get out of bad habits, man. Like when you get clear, bad habits, you look at it from a different framework, and those habits are the things holding you back. So, but that's another conversation. We'll probably dive into habits and breaking habits and all that kind of stuff, because I think that's it's needed in today's world. So,
absolutely.
But that's all I got, man. I'm very appreciative of this conversation. So,
likewise, and we just want everyone to know, right? Like we're advocates for taking care of your mental wellness, whether you find that in therapy, whether you find that in a coach. At the end of the day, specifically for men, yes, women too, but specifically for men, just start trying to talk about it. Just talk it out, right? And if you find safe spaces to talk, trust me, it's going to heal your soul. It's going to help you get clarity in your mind. You're going to find tools and things to work out. It doesn't make sense to be in a place where you're not happy with yourself or you're not happy with your life and you just feel like you got to figure it out, talk it out, right?
Yeah.
Talk it out with somebody. Find the professional, because again, this is why I strayed away from just friends, because sometimes, right, they're not going to even give you the right thing. If you throw it out and then they give you some rubbish back just because they think they're doing the right thing, it might not be what you need. Sit down with someone that professionally does this. They professionally take on people's right thoughts and concerns and talk it through. But we highly recommend this, guys. So again, for everyone that's listening, reach out to T and I, right? If you have a question about it, or share your perspective with us. What has therapy done for you? Or why are you struggling to maybe pull the trigger and say, like, I'm going to go talk to somebody? What's holding you back? Maybe we can talk you through some things. We're more than happy to do that. But as always, guys, right, make sure that you're doing what's best for you and your mental wellness, mental health, and it's going to impact the people around you. So it was a good one.
It's a good one.
Yeah, man. Until next time, guys, we're going to sign off for the Perspective Podcast this week. Check us out next week. Again, we're going to keep giving you guys our perspectives because we want you guys to understand it's no right or wrong in this thing. It's really just about understanding that you have options and there's things that you can do to get to that next level. So signing off next week. Take care, guys.
God bless y'all.